As the performance of logic chip of stacked CMOS image sensor become more and more powerful, will those image sensors have more and more functions other than just imaging in the future?
And I think this trend will continue to grow. I feel pretty confident about that because there are so many applications of image sensors where the image itself is not the end goal, right? It's just the starting point for some kind of smart processing algorithm that needs to extract some kind of meaningful higher level information from these images, right? Think of all the advances we are seeing in computer vision these days. Things that we can do with these learning-based data-driven approaches that use deep neural networks on large image data sets, right? So for such applications, the image is just the starting point. The image is not the end goal. I mean, you could imagine so many applications where, for example, let's take the application of a robot trying to navigate through a building, right? It doesn't really matter if I show aesthetically pleasing, like really beautiful looking images to that robot. It just doesn't matter. All that matters in the end is, did the robot avoid making collisions and did it get to the destination quickly and smoothly, right? And maybe, beautiful images, nice looking images are not needed for achieving this task. Then there is, tons of industrial automation tasks where you need to run one very specific thing in a very controlled environment. Let's say you're doing object recognition for a very controlled set of objects. You know it is going to be just one out of these 10 or 100 objects. Again, in such cases, totally makes sense to just run that object recognition or object detection algorithm right there on the image sensor. Like there is no need to download all these images and then send them off to some compute module that's downstream. Makes perfect sense to run them on the image sensor. And that way you also avoid extra latency and bandwidth cost of transferring these images over to a host machine. And you can potentially run these even faster, much higher frames per second. So overall, I think this trend of integrating machine learning algorithms on the image sensor will keep expanding and will be much bigger than what it is right now.
What is the future of lensless cameras?
Yeah, I think it's certainly a really promising future direction. But the type of image quality that you get from meta optics-based cameras today, it's still quite far away from the type of image quality that a smartphone consumer would expect to see. Like a lens-based camera still gives you much higher image quality. They can be more complicated than conventional lens-based cameras because you're not capturing the scene information through a lens anymore. The raw data itself is mixing together the light signals that are coming from many different parts of the scene. So the raw data itself does not look like the image at all. So now the onus is on the downstream computational algorithm to unmix this information, if you will, and produce a final nice looking image, right? So the computation can be much heavier in that case to produce the final image. But then I think there could be other applications, as I was mentioning earlier. There are applications where the final image is not the main goal. Those applications could be interesting again for lensless cameras. I mean, one thing that comes to my mind is, there are cameras on smartphones today that are essentially just doing security related things like Face ID or something like that. Maybe a lensless camera might be okay for that kind of application, right? All you're looking for is some kind of unique signature for that person's face. And then maybe you don't need to actually take a high resolution, nice looking image of that person. There's also a lot of work in these privacy preserving algorithms that are using lensless methods, basically, right? Where there is no way to invert that data and figure out who the person was, but you're still able to do some, computer vision tasks on that data. Like you can maybe figure out where the person is, or what other objects there might be around it. You could do some kind of object recognition or pose recognition. You could figure out if the person is waving their hands or clapping or some other action recognition kind of application. So I think those could be interesting applications for meta lens and lensless cameras.